there was a lovely casting director that David and David was working with called Mark Frankham, and he had actually seen me in another show. I kind of think it was like a year before, and these casting directors have amazing memories, and they kind of remembered me, and he kind of approached my agent, said, would Alison mind coming along and having an audition? So I had to do one of the speeches from the show, and I had to perform and learn a kind of like a rock pop number. So I did take another little piece of my heart now, baby. That's the song that I did. And there was Jack Ryder, Tim Firth, there was Kim Gavin, there was David Pugh, and there was Heidi, all in the room. And it was just so overwhelming because I never thought that I would ever be in a musical kind of using the song to take that. So it was the whole thing was just so special. But they normally, when you casting for something, they normally give you kind of like a breakdown of the character. So it's normally just like a paragraph or 2 paragraphs that tells you what the character's about. And when I read her, I just got her. I knew what type of person she was. I knew where she was in her life. I just kind of knew. I think I'm not very similar to her, but I knew who she was, if you know what I mean. So I kind of just knew that I would be able to portray that and tell that Tim's story to the audience. So yes, there are only kind of a few paragraphs really. And obviously then the speech that I had to learn, which was, it was actually different to the one that everybody saw in the show, quite interestingly enough. It was, it went through a lot of rewrites, and that was kind of part of all the process with Tim. It kind of started off as one thing, and then he kind of wrote it and rewrote it as we were working on it together, which was really actually brilliant to be part of that process and see how it evolved. I kind of brushed myself off. I was like, oh yeah, they've asked to see me, but there's no way I'm going to get it. That was my attitude. I was like, oh yeah, you know, it was one of these things that you sometimes audition for and you think, oh, it would be amazing, but they're never going to really want me. They're never, you know, it won't work out. And kind of that's the mentality I had going into it. So when it did work out, I was just a bit like, what? Yeah. And then it just a crazy kind of 2 years then kind of unfolded in front of me, and I'm so grateful for the experience. And I just kind of, talking about friendship, you know, I'm still speaking to many of the people that were in the cast, so there was friendships grown there as well through Take That. So there we go. It's no secret, everyone knows, all the Take That fans that are watching right now know that I absolutely adored them. I loved them, and I never saw them. I wasn't ever kind of rich enough to be able to afford to go and see them, and so kind of working class background, kind of, so my mum and dad didn't have the money for me to go to a concert as such, but I always used to just love them. I had the sticker book, and you know, just the Howard with his dreadlocks, and we all know it. We all had the sticker book, didn't we? Yeah. So yeah, I was a massive fan. I don't think I was a bigger fan as some of the fans I've met, I have to admit. But I was a big fan. I think I was ridiculous. I absolutely was ridiculous. To go kind of serious for a moment, we had like kind of 3-week workshop where it accumulated in a performance at the end of the workshop, and it was like a 3-week audition, because I think there was only a few people in the cast that knew that they had got the part at that stage. So we were having to kind of rehearse, not knowing if we were going to be playing these characters. And they walked in, and I just absolutely crumbled, like I was ridiculous. I grabbed the kettle and ran out. kind of said, "Oh, I got to go and make a cup of tea," and I had to kind of compose myself a little bit and then go back in. And then we had like a read through, and I just remember falling to pieces in the read through, and I kind of was stumbling over my words, and I wasn't portraying myself in the best light, and I couldn't do anything about it, and I kept trying to shake myself, going, "Come on, this is like, you might not get the job because of this," and I couldn't seem to kind of get myself out of that. They probably don't even remember that experience, but I do very well, because I felt like I was losing it, if you know what I mean. It is interesting though, because now, since I've like kind of met them a few times now, and like, you know, chatted to them and stuff, I don't feel like I did, if that makes sense. I do see them now as real people, and kind of I know kind of a little bit of their traits, you know, and kind of, I don't have that same kind of thing about them. I just go, "Oh yeah, it's just Gary." Oh yes, but I'm not like that. I'm still like excited when I always was excited when they came, but they kind of became human rather than these, like, you know, oh, kind of people. No, but Jane McKenna, who played Zoe, she said to me, "You know, you're going to be an inspiration to many women in this show." And I, at the beginning, I was like, "Oh, I don't." I was like, "Yeah, right." I didn't really know what she meant, and then as it actually unfolded, and kind of more and more fans kind of were writing to me and messaging me and coming up to me at stage door and saying how, you know, yeah, you're telling my story, like I was Claire, you know. I kind of realized that what she was saying was true, you know, that it was an inspiring story. I don't feel like I inspired them. I felt like it was the story that inspired them, you know, and the character that inspired them. And so yeah, I don't think I did know, but I'm always up for an adventure, and always up for kind of like, let's go on this journey and see where it goes. Yeah. So one thing that me and Emily, who played Heather, I think we chatted about this, about how when you're younger, you fantasize about these pop stars, because it's, as you say, it's your first kind of introduction to kind of like love, really, and kind of like romance, really, because you can imagine it and practice it in your mind, like with these, you know, with these magical men. And maybe it's something that, like a connection, a reconnection to that, you know, and kind of like a still love it, you know, still loving that, just that fantasy element, maybe. Very overwhelming, but also very, just very warm. Like I saw it all because of the themes of the show, and kind of my own experience growing up liking Take That. I just saw it as all one massive community. We were actually all part of the same thing. It just so happened I was on stage telling the story, but I was on stage telling the story of the people that was watching it, you know. So, and that's what Tim wanted it, and Take That wanted. They wanted it to be a story about the fans, for the fans. So it was really overwhelming, because everything you've just said is exactly right. You are all crazy. And kind of in the best possible way. But what I loved about the show, one of the major things I loved about the show, was that a lot of the audience that came to see the band had maybe never been into a theatre before. So we had this atmosphere in the theatre that was kind of almost gig-like, which kind of brought a new energy to the theatre. So you kind of have some critics kind of maybe looking down at their nose at the type of theatre that it was, you know, jukebox musical. You know, some people kind of cast aspersions against that kind of theatre. And for me, it was actually bringing a whole new audience to the theatre, which I just loved. Isn't that what theatre is all about? Bringing people to the theatre, getting them through the doors, just having a really good time. And so I just felt like we were all part of the same gang. That's how I looked at it, and that's how I saw it. Yeah. But I remember the very last. There's so many memories that I will always remember throughout my life. But I think the one that I've just plucked up is the the very final day we were in Southampton, and I just remember looking out the window and this just sea of people, singing, waving, it was just it's magical to be able to be part of that and to have experienced that. I will be forever lucky and forever grateful. I'm not sure I can say. I've got something really exciting coming up, but I can't say at the moment. By the time this goes out, I'll be able to say. But it's the cast hasn't been announced yet. But I can say it involves music, and it involves great storytelling and great writing. But I can't say. But I'm really excited about that. That starts at the end of August and goes through, and then. Yeah, there's basically irons in the fire, but I can't talk about anything.